So I just,
Check, check. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Crush Live Call-ins. I am your host here, Bart Hanson, and Happy New Year, as it is New Year's Eve here on in 2018. It's about 4:50 on the West Coast. Some of you guys watching this on the on the East Coast, I'm sure you've already started your partying. I am actually gonna take it easy tonight. Not going out, just gonna chill at home. I think New Year's is sort of a little bit of an amateur hour. But as always, new format the last couple months. We take submissions in from the show, or we take submissions in via email, or you can PM me on Slack if you're a CLP sub, so that we'll get some interesting calls. So we already have 5 people lined up here today. So let's just get into it. Again, I will be in the live chat as well here. We took last week's, of course, off for Christmas Eve. But let's go to our first caller here, and this is Rocky in the 626. What's up, Rocky?
hey Bart, how's it going?
Good. Are you a first-time caller?
Yeah, first time caller.
Okay, great. Awesome. So where's this hand coming out of?
It's at the Commerce, the 510.
Oh, Commerce 510. Nice. Nice. I was actually... You weren't the guy that introduced yourself to me when I was there a
No,
couple
I
days ago.
haven't.
I actually played a 510 section at Commerce for the first time, I would say maybe all year long on
Oh, yeah.
Saturday night, I want to say. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sort of familiar with it.
Okay,
So let's start it off here.
okay. Well, this was actually my first 1500. I just wanted to give it a try. I usually play the 500, but I just
Okay,
wanted to try out the 1500. The
sure.
stack deaths and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So we had a new table, and about an hour in, I wake up with pocket aces, ace of hearts, ace of spades under
Okay.
the gun.
Okay.
I make it 35.
Okay.
I think late position. I think we get total of 4 callers. It was like late position, hijack, and then the button and the small blind.
So
So we
LG,
get 4
so
callers.
like LG, hijack, and small blind and button.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we get 4 callers,
Okay. So that makes the pot
and
about
then
175, right? So
yeah,
yeah, so
175.
aces times 5, right? 35 by 5. And that's usually what I open it to as well. Okay. So you got ace of hearts, ace of spades from under the gun.
It was weird because I noticed there's like this little kind of like hand gesture from the small blind, like right before he called. I think like he thought about it looked like he thought about raising, and I was kind of hoping he did, but he didn't. Like he looked like he was reaching for chips to grab, but
Mm-hmm.
he didn't. So he just made the call,
Okay.
and he's actually the main villain in the hand.
Okay.
So the small blind, so the flop comes out, king of hearts, queen of hearts, jack of spades.
King of hearts, queen of hearts, jack of spades. So not necessarily the best flop, right, for us,
Yeah.
basically. I mean, you're going to have to proceed with caution. You know, it's sort of interesting in the sense that what I would do if it got checked to me, whether or not I might bet or not. You do have the ace of hearts in your hand, but I very well might check here and play this one passively against four people if that's what happens.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Usually this kind of flops, if I have pocket pair and it comes out like that, I usually check it.
Okay. So what happened?
So yeah, the small blind, he donk bets. He leads out for pot 175.
Wow, okay. And again, you have the ace of
Yeah.
hearts in your hand, so you've got a gutter to a 10 with the ace of hearts
Yeah.
in your hand, so you've got obviously some backdoor um, some backdoor heart equity. I mean, I think it's probably a little bit weak to just fold
Mm-hmm.
obviously right now, whereas if it was like a bomb pot, we're going to have a bomb pot call probably coming up where I probably would just fold, but
Yeah.
I assume you just call, right?
Yeah, I make the call.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. So I end up talking to my buddy about this, and he says like when someone leaves out like that, he said like, you know what, there you go, Merry Christmas, see you later, my $35. Like he said he wouldn't even have called the 175. But
I mean, with three people act left behind you, and with you having the
uh-huh.
ace of hearts, we've talked about what's better to have it or not have it. When you have it, it means the person's not leading out with a nut flush draw, which would be obviously a flush draw, the nut flush draw on a gutter, like ace eight or some shit like that. On the flip
Yeah,
side to this is that you do have some backdoor equity, but yeah, it's certainly strong. But you do have equity against like a flop two pair, like queen jack or
yeah,
king jack or king queen. I don't have a problem with the call. Did everybody else fold behind?
yeah. Everyone else folds behind,
All right, so everyone else
and
folds behind, and
then
now your head's up.
yep.
Okay.
And then on the turn is it's a blank. It's a five of diamonds,
Okay.
and he leads out again. He leads out for 400 this time.
Wow. So he's betting 400 into a pot of about 425. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he bets 400
So,
now. Boy, I don't know, man. I think at this point I might fold. I gotta be honest with you. I might fold. I mean, yeah, like again, if you're up against like bottom two, or if you're up against any two pair, you've got maybe six, as many as 10 outs. But this looks really, really strong, and you're blocking, the nut flush
okay.
draw. Were you thinking about folding?
I was thinking about folding. I did tank, and yeah, I ended up tank calling, and I don't know what my reasoning behind it was, but
Uh
I was
huh.
just kind of like, I kind of put him on like maybe a combo draw, maybe he had like the king with like a 10 or something.
Or like 10x of hearts, like 10-8 of hearts or something like that. I don't know. But the thing is
Yeah,
that what you have to realize is that board hits so many people, and it hits you really hard from under the gun too. I don't know if, like, if I put myself in that guy's spot, I don't think I'm just going to barrel out with a combo draw into five
yeah,
people. I mean, it would be one thing if, the small blind checks and somebody like in late position bets and you can attack the field better. But if I put myself in the small blind spot, I don't think that that's how I would play it. But so you end up calling, right?
yeah.
All right, so you
And then I end up
call.
calling, and then the river was a two of spades, and then as soon as like the river comes up, he snapped all in, all in for about 900.
So he bets
And
900 into a pot of what, maybe 12, something like that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
hmm
I mean, at this point, I can't imagine how you're going to be good here. I think I would probably fold. Any info on like who the guy was or anything like that?
I talked to someone like I guess my neighbor. I've never played against this guy because I never played the 1500. But I talked to the guy beside me, and he was like, "Hey, what'd you have?" And I was like, "I had pocket aces." He's like, "Yeah, you weren't good. That guy's a solid player. He wouldn't have jammed all in without the nuts right there." That's what someone told me, and I was like, "Okay, well, I guess if he had the nuts, he probably had like an ace 10 or 10. I mean, could have been ace 10 of spades or something. And
So
could
you
have
did.
flopped the straight."
So what ended up happening? You did fold the river?
Yeah, I did fold the river. I just couldn't call that because it was such a big bet, and yeah, I didn't call.
I mean, here's the thing about 510, right? I mean, I think when you move up, you get a little, and sometimes this actually happens with me, although I've been playing mostly 10 and a quarter, which is the biggest
Hmm.
game in LA, 510 20, well, 510 20 usually, at the bike and at Commerce. But even when I had played a lot of 1020 back in the late 2000s, and then I played a bunch of 510 in the early teens, when I would move up and play like 1020 at Commerce, I would always sort of outlevel myself that people were making more moves on me than was actually really sort of going on. I mean, it's live poker, and you can certainly
Hmm.
overfold in spots. And I mean, a bet with you blocking the ace of hearts, I honestly might just pitch the turn. I think pitching the flop's probably a little bit too weak. But
Yeah.
you never really found out what the guy had, though, right?
No, I never found out what he had.
I mean, you think that the fold on the river is correct, though.
Yeah, definitely. I think I should have folded the turn because I guess going back to the hand and talking to my friends about it, him leading 175 on the flop pot, he probably has a minimum of at least two pairs or better. He
Hmm.
could have a set, he could have jacks, whatever. That's he's betting into four other players.
Right,
He's saying I have something. He's trying to block the flush draw. He's
right.
trying to punish them. So it makes a lot of sense. So I think, I could call the flop and hopefully hit a heart on the turn, and but that was it. I think after not hitting a heart on the turn, it was an automatic fold on the turn. I think.
By the way, what I will say, Rocky, is that I talked to a floor lady, Jenny, who's my friend over at Commerce, and she said 510's been relatively good because all the Euros have left. So if there is a time to shot take, this is probably one of them. And I did notice that too when I played there on Saturday night. There were not these hovering groups of Euros, and the game that I played in was really good. So,
Yeah.
it is a
Yeah, our
time.
table was solid. I played for a couple hours, and yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
was nothing. It was nothing crazy. We didn't see anything like out of it was a solid game.
Right. All right, man. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. All right. Let's go to our next caller here, and this is Johnny in the
Yeah,
San
what's
Jose
going on,
area.
Bart?
How you doing, Johnny? What's going on?
Hey, doing well, Bart.
Good.
Got the hand for you. It's going to be 235 at Casino Matrix in San Jose, California.
This is a bomb pot
Yeah.
hand, right?
Yeah, it's a bomb pot hand.
Awesome. I love bomb pots. Love them, love them, love
So,
them. I wish we played more of them in LA.
Yeah, so it was the first bomb pot of the night.
Okay.
I
So
have
for
700 effective. Most guys have 2 to 3K, 7-handed. Everybody puts in 20. I'm under the gun with 9 of clubs, 9 of diamonds.
Okay, let me just stop you real quick just to make sure that everybody knows what a bomb pot is. Of course, a bomb pot is when everyone just gets dealt 2 cards and people put in money like it's an ante. It depends on the size of the game, how much money people put in. You're playing 2, 3, 5, which is that the big stack game they call it now, or it's like, or is this the 600 cap?
This is the 600 cap, but everybody's pretty deep.
Okay, so most villains have about 2 to 3,000. Like you said, this is a bomb pot. You have $700, and everyone puts in 20, so it's 140 to the flop, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what are you dealt, and what position are you in?
I am under the gun.
Okay, and what are you dealt?
I am dealt 9 of clubs, 9 of diamonds.
Oh, okay, so you have pocket nines from under the gun, but again, everybody, has any 2 cards. So we go to the flop, and what's the flop?
So the flop is 9-8-4, 2 spades, 1 heart, 9-8 of spades, 4 hearts. That's top set.
So you have top set. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, here's the thing about bomb pots. You can certainly play draws aggressively because people are pretty cautious. But the other thing, though, and then sometimes people overplay hands, but, if it gets checked to you, I don't know what's going to happen, but if it gets checked to you, I with top set, I would do a lot of betting. I mean, there could be some case to be, made for maybe checking middle set or bottom set to get someone to bet and maybe put in a small check raise, but, I don't know. So what happens here on the flop?
Yeah, I saw a lot of guys stab at some previous hands, and they seem to be on the looser side, making some questionable plays. So I figured I could probably check top set, and maybe somebody's going to stab at it, and then I could check raise and build a pot a bit more. So I check, and to my surprise, it checks through.
See, that's not really to my surprise that it's going to get checked through because you basically, block a lot of the top pair types of hands. Now, obviously, someone could be dealt like 8-4, straight draws, flush draws, things like that. The other thing too is that you're only 700 deep, so it's not like you have to do anything that's crazy to build the pot up, right? The pot's already $140. I mean, I could see if you were like 4,000 deep, you might have some sort of creativity to get money in the pot, but in general, I like a bet. But okay, so it gets checked through.
Yeah, so it gets checked through, and then the turn is a 6 of clubs.
Okay, so the turn is a 6 of clubs, okay.
And then the small blind bets out 75.
Okay.
Big blind calls,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's back on me, and then I elect to raise to 295.
Oh, I got to tell you, man. I mean, so here, I don't know if you've heard some of these other bomb pot calls that we have had. I like sort of going over these scenarios, but people, I think they don't understand really the dynamics of how sort of uncapped when you give somebody any two cards, someone is. I look at this sort of like a PLO hand. It's sort of like a PLO hand when you're playing a bomb pot. So it's 9-8-4, two spades, one heart, turns a six of clubs, small blind bet 75, big blind calls, and you make it 295. Here's the thing. Now, obviously, you're not that deep, so it's not like going to be crazy, but how many combinations of straights are there on 9-8-4-6? How many combinations are there?
Now we lose to 7-5 and 7-10.
Right. So 7-10 and 7-5 are both straights, right? So how many physical like holdings is that?
Man, to be honest, it's quite a bit. I don't have a number. I should be able to break it down, but now.
Well, okay. So I mean, just any two cards. There's 16 combinations of any two cards, whether there's unpaired cards. Okay. So there's 9 combinations of, or excuse me, 6 combinations of pairs that you can have in your hand. And then there are 16 combinations of any two cards, whether it's ace king, 5 deuce, 4 suited, 12 offsuit, right? So because it's a bomb pot and because everyone is totally random, there are 16 combinations of 10-7, and there are also 16 combinations of 5-7 as well. So when you raise to 295, you're sort of committing yourself, and you have to be very, very cautious when you don't have the nuts, when there are multiple possibilities of straights out there in a bomb pot. You're also hindered by the fact that you've got a bunch of people to act left behind you. So I have to say that I actually think this is a little bit of an overplay. Now, it could be the small blind might have turned 2 pair, or he was sandbagging something too, but I don't think I would raise. To be honest with you, at this point, I would call and sort of let the hand reveal itself. I mean, I know that there are multiple straight draws out there, and there's a front door flush draw, but I actually think a raise here is a little bit of an overplay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you make it 295, and then what happens?
But then it folds around to the small blind. He folds, and then the big blind puts it all in.
Okay, so the small blind who bet 75 ends up folding. And now the big blind goes all in for what, another 400? Something like that, right?
Yes, like another 385 more, something like that.
So
$400.
So if he always has a straight, let's say he always has a straight. Let's say he turns his hand over, right? And you have top set. How many outs do you have to beat a straight?
Let's see here. Need the 4 to pair my last 2 9s that I have.
You have one out to quads, right?
Not on the spot.
Right. No worries. You have one out.
I ran in a calculator. I need like 24% to call, whatever that is. So
I mean,
have like.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I would look at this is that I have 10 outs. You have 10 outs. If he flips over his hand, you have 10 outs to call because you got one quad out, and then you've got 3 8s, 3 4s, and then 3 6s, right? So you have 10 outs, and there's about 44 unseen cards in the deck. This is if he turns his hand over because all the, the cards, you don't know what they are. So you need about 3.4 to 1 to make this call if he always has a straight. And again, I'm doing that by 10 into the unseen cards, which is 44. So you've got 10 over 44, which is, 1 out of 4.4, but that's 3.4 to 1. When he comes back over the top for a raise to 400, let's do some math here. There's 140 in the pot, so 290, that's like maybe 590, and then he comes back over the top for another 400. It's like 990, like 300 for you to call, something like that. Maybe a little bit less. 990, 300 for you to call, or excuse me, 400 for you to call, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 994. Oh, let's see if I did that right. Well, let me do this. 140, 290, 590, and then he puts another 400 on top. Yeah, 990, 400 for you to call. So you're getting about 2.5 to 1. So, I mean, if this guy has a straight every single, all day long, you can't call. The question then becomes, do you think that he would ever do this without a straight? Like, is he clueless? Do you know anything about him? If he ever, occasionally doesn't have a straight, then obviously you can call.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was a pretty bad player. I mean, that was the biggest pot he won off me, and then he went home broke. Against him, maybe I should call it off. Man, it was tough. I top set, 150 big blinds. It's like, am I really going to lay this down? And then I kind of just I called, and if he had it, he had it. But,
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's so you did call.
I did call.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have a straight there, like probably enough where you can fold, because look at the action. Remember, it's a bomb pot, so everyone's entirely random. You've raised the turn, and my question to you is that if you were to raise the turn here, like with your hand, like you did, do you think someone's going to come back over the top for a 3-bet on the turn without some sort of straight? I mean, it's a bomb pot. Is he going to come back over the top with a 3-bet with pocket 8s, pocket 4s when there's 2 straights out there? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I guess probably not.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But again, I think that the issue here is that actually a raise on the turn is a little bit of an overplay. How often do they do bomb pots like in these places?
It's just as long as the players at the table agree. So we had just a dealer change, and one guy went ahead and suggested it. We all agreed to throw 20 in. So that was the first one of the night. It just depends on the whoever's there. Most people who play regularly, they're all for the bomb pots. Not too common at 1, 2, 3, but pretty common at 2, 3, 5 and above.
Yeah, Andrew Province in the live chat says bomb pots and other quote-unquote unusual scenarios are where the good players intuitively are better than the rest of the field. I'm not a big game player in the sense that, look at my buddy Bryce Yockey and some of these guys that play mixed games. They always like to invent different games and try to figure out like how to beat them, like with the OFC craze and things like that. And that's just not me. But for some reason, I look at bomb pots and I just sort of get it because it's more math. And it's just the hand values are just so unbelievably are going to have to be your hand value is going to have to be so unbelievably strong as compared to a regular hand of Hold'em because everyone has any 2 cards. I mean, that's in essence what it is. So when you're looking at the third nuts on the turn is not really going to be a hand that is going to be strong enough necessarily to raise against a bet and a call, especially if the nuts are straight, because there's definitely going to be more combinations of straights than flushes. If there's a 3 flush, I think that's right. I'm almost positive that's going to be right because there's going to be 16 combos of straights. So when you're looking at 2 combos of straights, it's just a little bit of an overplay. I would just say play your hand straightforward in bomb pots, especially when you're not that deep,
Probably the takeaway there to just bet the flop and went from there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just don't go crazy. Like, say you turned a set of 6s, same thing, right? You're not going to raise the turn if you turned like a set of 6s, right? So, anyways, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. We have 631 on hold, but we're going to go to Jonathan here, who is in Arizona. No, Arkansas. Is that right? Are you in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, Bart.
Are you in Arkansas?
Yeah, I'm in Arkansas.
Cool.
But
Where's there poker in
I
Arkansas?
live right on the border. I live right on the border of Oklahoma, so I play in Oklahoma.
Ah, okay. You play Choctaw and Windstar?
Yeah, Durant sometimes, and the Cherokee.
Oh, cool.
Casinos up on the northeast side.
Yeah, well, Cherokee is a casino in Oklahoma as well as North Carolina?
Maybe, I don't know.
You're talking about Cherokee, Oklahoma. I was just looking at Cherokee, North Carolina, just today for some reason. I wanted to see how far Asheville, North Carolina was as I sort of do my little search about how I might move from LA. I was actually looking at that. But I hear they're actually going to be playing a tournament in Choctaw. I had a buddy of mine, Squish My Tomato, was thinking about going there to travel for the cash games, actually. All right, so you got a hand for us?
I do. Okay, so I'm playing 1-2 with a $5 button straddle.
Okay.
The effective stack is $580.
Okay.
And what happens is small blind folds, big blind limp calls the 5.
Okay.
Under the gun, who is a 5-10 reg, and he's always playing 5-10 or 2-5, whatever the biggest game in the casino is, and he always appears to be winning to me.
Mm-hmm.
He makes it 52.
Yep.
And then it folds to this guy that's tilting, who just dumped most of his stack to that reg, the hand before this one, and he has like $104.
Okay.
And he calls the 52.
Okay.
Now, obviously, from my perspective, I feel like the reg made it 52, hoping that the tilting guy would jam.
Okay.
But that was just my feeling in the moment. So I look down in the cutoff at Jack of Diamonds, Jack of Clubs.
Okay.
And I tank for probably about 30 seconds because I'm trying to decide if I want to 3-bet this hand or if I just want to flat and play in position. and I feel like I can get all the money in by the river at 52, so I decide to just call.
All right, so let me just go over this again. So it's 1-2 with a 5-button straddle. So that means that it goes in order, right? So small blind limps 5, big blind makes it 5. Under the gun, who's a 5-10 reg, makes it 52. Folds to a hijack who only has about $100, who's tilting. He calls, and you're in the cutoff with jacks, right? Now, here's the thing, though, too. You've got that extra dead money in there. This is sort of a little bit tricky here because, you know, I don't know how. If this is a 1-2, is this a game that's played with a button straddle all the time, or is it this is just a special hand?
Yeah, this particular one was all the time.
Okay, so if it's all the time, you really are playing like a 1-2-5 game, and I think that this is really where this sort of differs, because, you know, if you were playing 1-2, and then all of a sudden somebody just button straddled like once in a great while, even though the blinds are, you know, the same stack depth, it's just people getting in with different ranges. But you're actually playing a 1-2-5 game. And I got to be honest with you, there's enough dead money out there for me to just 3-bet this off and go with it. Now, we had actually done some work. It's kind of a simple concept, but we put it into pretty good English over on our Top Section podcast. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit on my podcast tomorrow. An easy way to think about the threshold, if you're going to 3-bet or 4-bet, whether or not, like what sizing you use if you're shallow. If you can 3-bet to basically less than 1/3 of the effective stacks, then it's okay to 3-bet. If your 3-bet that you're going to make is more than 1/3 of the effective stacks, then you just want to move all in. And the reason why that is because, like, if you make it, say, like 200, you never have a 3-bet fold range because you're always going to get more than 2-1 coming back over the top. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
if you can
yeah,
3-bet
totally
to if you can 3-bet to 1/3, you can do it because you can still possibly be bluffing. But any more than that, you want to go all in. Now, if this guy doesn't know you in his 5-10 reg, he might just assume that you're not going to ever fold, and 150 might be stronger. So I could go either way with this here because if you 3-bet to 150 and the guy jams for like basically 430 more, you know, I guess if you're prepared to fold, you could make it 150, and if he jams for 580 and it's 430 more for you and you're not getting 2-1, you're damn sure you're beat. But I think jacks is too, you know, it's too strong to do that. So I look at this as, I look at this as just, I would either just ship or 3-bet to like 150 to 175. I mean, but because of that dead money that's in the pot in between.
I mean, I feel like in hindsight, I wish I had like 3-bet to, like you said, 150 or 170, and then if he did jam, I feel like I could just relatively safely fold, assuming I'm
really. I mean, you got to be really, because I mean, the pot would be 350. You'd come back over the top for another 430. It would be like 780, 430 to call. I mean, you'd be getting about 1.8 to 1, and you'd have to be really sure.
And that was one of my questions is, I mean, how are you ranging under the guns open? And then if he does jam against my 3-bet pre, I mean, what are you ranging him?
Well, I mean, he really should have like probably like queens, kings, aces, and ace king. I mean, that's what I would do it with, because he has the incentive to call. Like if you make it 150,
I felt like jacks wouldn't fare well there.
Well, I mean, if you run, remember, there's 16 combos of ace king, right? So, I mean, if you do a little bit of stove in your head, like there's 9 combos of queens, 6, 6, and 6. So this is how I do stove in my head. Like, there's just about the same amount of combos of ace king as there are higher pairs than your hand. So with ace king, you're like 55%, and then against queens plus, you're like 18%. So you actually just have to average 55 and 18 because the combos are about the same to find your equity. So 18 plus 55 is 73, and then divide by 2. You're about 36%, I would say, against a range of all ace kings and queens plus. So
I could go with it if he does shove then. And
I mean, well, if you're getting 2-1, you need 33% equity, right? If you're getting, you know, just under that, you probably need 35%. It's just really close. So I could see jamming. I could see making it 150 to 175. I just think with that extra dead money in there, I would 3-bet. What ended up happening?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so I do call, and it folds around.
You call.
We go to a flop.
You call.
Yeah, I wind up calling.
I mean, the other thing too is that the other thing too, the reason why this hand sort of does well as a 3-bet is just denying the random equity of the guy in the middle too with any overcards or even the preflop raiser. I mean, how often is a board going to come out where jacks is an overpair? I don't know off the top of my head. I would say maybe less than 25%, maybe 1 out of 4.
Yeah, it's not often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you see it three ways,
I wasn't
right?
worried about the tilting guy. I mean, the tilting guy could literally have any 2 cards.
No, I know. So now it's 3 ways, right?
Yeah. Yep. 3 ways going to the flop.
Okay.
And the flop is 10 of diamonds, 7 of diamonds, 3 of clubs.
10 of diamonds, 7 of diamonds, 3 of clubs. So you do flop an overpair, and you've got about 530 left, right, in your stack, something like that. Yeah.
No, I don't have 5. I've got like. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's about 530.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And so now under the gun, he thinks for like 10 seconds, and he bets 135.
He bets 135 on 10, 7, 3. Okay. What does the guy in the middle do?
He snap calls.
Wow, this is a tough spot here. So you do have the jack of diamonds in your hand, right?
I do, yeah. And so obviously he can't have ace jack of diamonds here, but I do think he could still have like ace king of diamonds, ace queen of diamonds, as well as all the overpairs still.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, this is wow. I mean, 135. So pot is 300, 350. It's 135 for you to call. So you're getting about 2.5 to 1. I mean, man, if this guy's a 5-10 reg, he really should not be betting just a dry ace king like this. I mean, I guess he could do it with ace king, with the ace of diamonds. If you make the call, you'll have like 400 more, right? So you'll have 400 more in your stack. So I'm trying to think of this as a 300, 350, 480. So if you call, the pot will be right around 480, and you'll have about 400 left.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you have enough stack depth to call. I just don't know. I mean, if the guy slows down on turn, it's just really, really, really awkward. Also too awkward in the sense of
in the moment, I'll tell you.
Yeah, also too awkward in the sense of like, if you jam here, like what's the purpose of jamming besides just getting a couple overcards?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could get on board with a call, but it's definitely sticky.
See, and that's exactly. I tanked again for probably another 30 seconds because I thought the same thing you did, where I was like, I kind of felt like raising would be good here, but then I'm like, I'm only getting called by things that are crushing me or have a lot of equity.
Yeah.
So I decided to kind of like take a PLO-ish line and just call, and I figured on safe rivers, if he checks, I'm probably good.
Oh, people are saying that the jacks as an overpair is 50% of the time. Really? Is it that much? Oh, okay. I actually would have thought it was less than that, but all right. So you end up calling, right?
Yeah, and here's where this hand gets fun, and it's kind of like live-ish. And also what made me think twice about this reg is that before the turn is dealt, after I make the call, he immediately moves all in without seeing the turn card.
Okay. So he just moves all in blind, basically, on the turn.
Blind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the turn?
I feel like now, well, the turn is the ace of hearts.
Well, that's got to be the worst card in the deck for you.
That's what I thought.
I mean,
when he jams blind, I mean, I don't think he has aces anymore or kings or queens because he should be worried about me having diamonds, I would think.
Why would he? Why, I mean, jamming blind is sort of awkward too. It's sort of usually indicative of like maybe, a draw where he's going to, like you said, like a hand like ace king of diamonds, ace queen of diamonds, something like that. But jamming blind isn't, I mean, you're not supposed to really have a lot of diamonds here when you call 52 and then call the flop. I mean, I don't think jamming blind is that crazy. What's that?
I figured I could have ace king or ace queen of diamonds. I mean, I felt like those hands make sense to call pre-flop and then call the flop. But
I mean, yeah, I just think that now you have to fold. Because
I did. I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's the worst card for you on the turn. I mean, even if he didn't do that, like, what do you, that's got to be the worst card, I feel like, in the deck.
And obviously, this call was mostly about the pre-flop action because I was just really unsure, and if I should be 3-betting there or if I should be just flatting because it was such a large raise 3.
Right.
And obviously, the ace of hearts, I wasn't. I did plan when I called the flop. If it was a 9 or lower, not diamond, I just intended to call it off. And
like for example, you mean if he just goes in blind and the turn's an offsuit deuce? You mean something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
you think I can just go with it now?
Well, I mean, listen, like you get into these kind of just like this chicken and the egg scenario where it's like, well, You know, you do probably have, like, if you 3-bet queens, kings, and aces, which you probably do, pre-flop, right? Then
Right.
jacks is, like, the best hand that you possibly can have besides flopping a set of tens. And, you know, so when the guy bets pot, you're supposed to be like, well, I'm supposed to call with, like, you know, half of my hands here so he doesn't have a profitable bluff. But that, I think that sort of goes out the window because these spots are under bluffed. Plus, he also has equity. I mean, that's what's called the MDF. We talked about that before, minimum defense frequency.
Yeah.
A blind shove on turn and a brick, I don't know. It's got to be, it's very close. I gotta be honest with you, it's
I mean,
very close. I just don't see people,
was
like,
my
bluff them
plan,
off
because
that much. Like, bluff off their
I just
stack
feel
like that.
I feel like if I call the 135, then I needed to have a plan. And if I'm not going to call on brick turns, then why am I calling the flop? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was my intent. I did get to see their hands, though, because, the tilting guy was all in.
Okay.
And the villain wound up rolling over pocket nines.
Pocket nines? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
And
strange. Yeah.
Fish wound up winning the main pot with, like, 10-8 offsuit.
So you would have won the hand.
Yeah, I would have won the hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just felt
that's
like I did something
really,
wrong in the whole
really
thing.
strange. I don't know what, I mean, the 5-10 rate, I mean, that's not a good line or a good play.
I didn't think so either.
So I don't really know what to say about that besides just chalking it up and being like, okay, that guy's a 5-10 reg, but he's not going to be most likely a winning player, I would say. I mean, people play different styles, but that's certainly somewhat bizarre to me on paper.
A guy that plays with him all the time told me, because he was sitting at the table too, and he leaned over and told me that I seemed weak or something like that, and that he was just attacking my passiveness.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, you mean to try? So he's turning his hand into a bluff against you having a 10 there?
Yeah, he said I was capped. You know, he said that because I didn't 3-bet pre-flop, I was capped, and that he could attack me. But I just thought he played terribly, to be honest.
Well, I mean, again, that is,
Chalked
I
it
mean,
up.
like I said, that is true. Like, in theory, that is true if you're gonna 3-bet queens, kings, and aces, that Jack's gonna be one of the best hands. But people don't usually take advantage of that, from what I've seen. And I don't know what this guy thought that necessarily you had, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, and why blind shove? You know, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't make any sense.
Definitely strange. Thanks for the call.
I really appreciate it, and thanks.
You got it. Shout out to Israeli Ron, Queen Deuce in the live chat. What's going on? Israeli Ron, Queen Deuce, live at the bike. Legend. Let's go to 631. Thank you, sir, for this is Jacob. Thank you for holding, Jacob. Sorry about the wait, miscommunication.
No worries, Bart. You can hear me? We're
Yep,
good?
I can, yep.
All right, cool. So this is a 1500 at Verona, or 2.5 cap, 1500 cap.
This is
Verona.
in Verona, is in what, California, right?
San Diego,
Somewhere?
yeah.
San Diego, okay.
Yeah, or
Okay,
like
cool.
outside San Diego, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this is my first hand at the table. The villain is in, well, so folds to low jack, opens to 20.
Okay.
Big time spot, calls in between.
Big time spot.
1500 effective with him.
In the hijack,
I
right?
3-bet. He's in the hijack, yep.
Okay.
3-bet the cutoff
Okay.
to 100 with jacks. Definitely 3-betting here all the time.
Okay.
The big blind, who has $425, takes maybe 15 seconds and then moves all in for $425.
So we have open from like mid position / low jack to 20, hijack calls, big fish, you 3-bet cutoff with jacks to 100, and the small blind cold 4 bets all in for 425. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have no reads on the small blind at the
Mhm.
moment. Like, never played with him before.
Yep.
The original raiser folds. The original caller now calls for 425.
So this is the spot, right?
Yes, the big
Okay.
spot calls
So
for
the
425.
Big spot calls for 425. Okay. And it's over to
so
you.
now I'm getting, so now I'm getting 3-1 on a call.
Yep.
So I don't think I can ever fold, getting 3-1.
So this is interesting. So this is sort of just all pre-flop, right? So
Yes.
20 and a call, and then you make it 100. I'm just trying to imagine if the guy folded out. So let's say it went 20 call, you made it 100, and the guy shoved for 425. So it would be like 150 and then what, like 575, 325 for you to call. I'm saying imagine the spot didn't call in between. You'd still be getting like 2-1, right? Against the small blind?
Yes. It's pretty, I think, people don't really like cold 4-bet ace king too often. So I think like if the spot folds, like, I don't know, like maybe it's a fold at that point, but I mean, it's like people don't like get 100 blinds in like super light in this game.
Right, but I mean, if this guy's
85 blinds, so I don't know.
But if this guy's a spot, I mean, you have a huge printing scenario here. I mean, I think this is just a no-brainer 5-bet against the spot. I mean, the guy cold called the raise, right? You 3-bet. This guy made it 4 bets, and now he's called. And
it's an extra 405 for him to call. And he put it in.
Right, but I mean, you started with you have him covered, right? You start with 1500.
No, I'm 1500 effective with the big spot. And
that's what I mean. You have him covered, right? So he calls. So you have like stacked up of 1100 more. So, you know, if you put it in, he's getting like 2-1. And this is another scenario where once he calls, you know, I don't know if you heard the other caller, he's got 1100 left. There's already 900 like in the pot. I don't think there's really anything probably to do here. Like you could, like there's really no, I mean, here's the thing, like if a guy's a super spot and you're a deeper, you could make like a small raise, but I would rather almost do that with like aces or kings. Jacks is a little bit vulnerable. I just think this is a slam dunk. Just put it back all in. I mean, you're going to be ahead of this guy like almost always, right?
Yes. I didn't know if, I was just trying to like base arguments versus like calling and taking a flop with like a dry side pot where bluffing kind of goes down to 0. Versus just putting it in pre.
Yeah, I would definitely just just put it in. I mean also too, like you actually will sometimes get hands to fold that you don't mind to fold. What hands do you think that he might have that I wouldn't mind seeing a fold?
I think he probably has like 8s.
Well, you don't want
like 8s through.
You don't want 8s to fold. I'm thinking of one specific hand.
He has a ton of like ace queen and ace 10.
Well, I wasn't even thinking
suited maybe.
How about I'm thinking of one specific hand that you want to fold that makes sense, that has equity. Not it doesn't have more equity, but it has equity against you. What do you think that is?
I block ace jack, but like ace king is obviously doing well. Like he probably plays ace king this way. Like I've never seen him 3-bet before.
Not ace king, not ace queen. What's the hand that I'm thinking of that has equity over you?
Ace jack.
No. How about
ace jack?
How about king queen offsuit?
Oh yeah. I don't know if he's that big of a spot.
Or king queen suited or something like that. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I just think that some things can happen that are good for you occasionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would just put this in. What ended up happening?
Right. Yeah, I put it in. He took like 5 seconds and was like, "Well, I have to call." Small blind had kings, which makes sense. Like turned out he's really tight.
Yeah.
And the big spot had queens, but
the big spot had queens.
Yeah.
And he
so I didn't know if I.
Wow.
Yeah,
and he
call.
Called the initial at low jack open, the hijack with queens, and just called the cold 4-bet. Wow, that's.
Yeah. So
I think that's just a little bit unlucky.
I look pretty stupid like when it happened, but just want to make sure I wasn't like projecting and being like, well, like maybe I could get it in with 10s and 9s.
Yeah, or just like you said, like an ace jack type of hand or something like that, or occasionally deny him equity. I don't think you did anything wrong. Obviously, spots are different levels, but thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Bart.
All right, thanks for holding on. Let's go to AV. AV in the 386. Is this AV? Hello.
Hey, Bart, can you hear me?
Yeah, or your handle on CLP Slack is AV. Is that right?
Yes, it is. This is my 3rd call.
Okay.
I called you before.
Okay.
Yep. So my question today is actually, it's not in regards to a hand history. When I typed it in, I forgot to resend you that. It's not a hand history per se. It's just some general questions here that I was hoping to get your insight on.
Sure.
So I'm at a point right now where I've gone like completely bust. Like my bankroll is at 0.
Okay.
I do work. I have a full-time job, pays pretty well, and I'm able to like replenish it. But really, my question's in regards to this. I kind of like blew the last of it at a game where the game was just really, really good. There was some like maniacs at the table, going all in blind, chasing draws for any price, that kind of situation.
Okay.
So, do you recommend, it's kind of like a twofold question, but the first part is like, my stop loss is usually 3 buy-ins. Should you break those rules if the game conditions like call for it? And is there a point at which like, and I think you've discussed this before in like one of the call-ins, is there a point at which like if you win a certain amount, just get out? Because I ended up losing, I think it was like 1,000 that night just trying to, stack these maniacs. So.
If you win a certain amount, get out because you're not comfortable playing deep? Was that at the end? I understand your first part, but what do you mean if you win a certain amount? Because you don't want to put yourself at risk, you mean? If you win a certain amount?
Yeah, because I was talking to some of my friends, and they were like, hey, if you double up, just get out of there. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know about that because the game's super good. Like, why would I leave? You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I can give you here's the thing. Like, for whatever reason, I tend to have a pretty mellow, even-keeled personality. And mental game, except when I'm driving in the car around LA. You can ask my girlfriend about that. I go nuts. But I swear I have a car camera in my car, and I'm going to turn the audio on one day and then upload the video of my audio. But so I don't really have a stop. Here's the thing. If you feel like you have strong mental game, you don't really need a stop loss. But if you feel like when you are losing that it affects the way that you play, then you probably should consider getting up and leaving. I don't necessarily know about taking a stop loss necessarily. I think where people, which I never understood, and which I definitely don't do, some people go on massive tilt when they get bad beats. So I never have a stop loss because I'm not going to put myself in a scenario where I might be like, get it in with aces against some guy's nines for a $5,000 pot, and he got in, with nines against me, like in some absurd spot, and he won. I'm not going to lose. You can only control the decisions, right? You can't control. Yeah, you can't control the cards. You can only try to make the best decision. So some people have like this whole thing about tilt where they tilt because of a bad beat. I will get up and leave sometimes if I feel like I am not playing well, and if I am forcing it for some reason where I'm starting to play sloppy. So those are the times that I get up, but I don't set myself off for a stop loss. So you have to ask yourself a question is like, no matter what the scenario is, if you are losing, whether it's through bad play or bad beats, do you start to play bad? And if the answer to that is yes, then yeah, it might be it might be a smart idea for you to set some sort of stop loss. By the way, especially if you're not a professional, it's not like you have to play. You're putting in time to try to make money. So you can do whatever you want. You said you had a job. So, the thing about if you're a true-blooded poker professional, which is not the smartest job, I think that if you ask any of the really successful people that have been around a long time, it's not – I would never want to put myself in a situation where I was playing poker full-time for a living. I just think that there are actually better avenues for money. Now, what's funny about that is that I could do it now. Let's say that somebody took CLP away from me, and they'd be like, "Well, Bart, what am I going to do for the next year?" I'll be like, "All right, well, I'll play poker." But I have like way more money than I had when I was like 25 years old. I think people underestimate how bankroll and living expenses will affect them mentally, and when their back is up against the wall. So if you're trying to play for your rent money and you have a stop loss and you can't get the hours in, that can obviously become a problem. But you have to ask yourself, hey, do I play bad when I'm down? And then, yeah, if you do for whatever the reason is, then yeah, you probably should. The whole thing about winning and then leaving, that's kind of more of a PLO type of thing, I feel like. Obviously your money is always in play in Hold'em, but it's far less variance than in PLO, where in PLO you flop top set, you're going to be forced to put it in like 60-40, and sometimes you're behind. It is what it is. Like the matchups are just closer, right, in general than they are in Hold'em. So that's sort of where that comes from, where you're just forced to put it in on a big flip. There's just nothing you can do. That doesn't really happen all that much in Hold'em. Now, obviously you can get coolered sometimes, but the idea, if the game is really good and you're deep, that means that the other players are going to be making far more mistakes than you are and for more money. So I would never be scared about playing deep in a very good game with bad players because their stacks are entirely open and they're going to be losing, more money than I am with second best hands. So, but, if it's your entire bankroll on the table, whenever you don't feel comfortable, yeah, you probably should, I would say, get up and leave. So you just have to ask yourself, do I play bad after I lose a couple of buy-ins, I think is basically what I would say.
And I don't think in that session I made like any mistakes particularly. I think it was like, I'm not gonna get into bad B stories, but it was a lot of negative variance for sure. Because I even put it in some of the I have like this group that we go over hands with, and they were like, "Wow, that's crazy! Like you run so bad." So, and then the second part of my question, really briefly, is like, so I lost this. I didn't say this at the beginning. I lost this at 1-2, which is like 5 buy-ins like within a few hours. And I'm really considering like in the new year, and not because of this particular reason, but just because I hear that the games play similarly. I mean, you'll run into a few opponents who are more so confident than they would be at the lowest stake. But is there really like that dramatic of a difference between like 1-2 and 2-5? Should I just like be playing 2-5 since my bankroll is like replenishable? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the biggest difference is where are you playing out of, by the way?
So I actually play out of there's a poker room here in Orange City, Florida. It's like 30 minutes north of Orlando, or east of Orlando.
So do you know the rake structure in your game? Like it's a rake and how much it is, basically? Because I'm going to...
Let me see. I believe the rake structure is max of 5 plus 1 for the bad B up to... or 10% max of 5, I believe. I could be mistaken.
Okay, so I was actually gonna go over this on my podcast, and I still am tomorrow, the regular CLP podcast. But I'll read it. I posted this up in the CLP forums, and I will put the link in the live chat for people. But I'm going to read it. So there was a guy on CLP, Erwin Bet, that said that he wasn't really happy with his win rate at 1-3. That he was winning like 4 big blinds an hour in a $300 cap game, which was like, $12 an hour. And the game is raked at 10% up to 6 plus a bad beat jackpot. And I said to him, and this was my response, and I said, I've always said that I don't even know if a game structure like that, I don't know what your game structure is, AV, in terms of, the buy-in, it might not even be beatable at all due to the rate considerations. Say, for example, the average pot size is $50. So that 5 plus 1 is basically raked out of the hand, basically every single hand, right? So that's like $6 an hour. And let's say conservatively you play 25 hands an hour, right? So they're raking $150 an hour, which is 50 big blinds per hour, okay? Gotcha. Now let's say you look at my game in LA, I'm playing 5-10. And they take the same rake, 5 plus 1. Well, they're only raking 15 big blinds an hour for my game, right? Same money. They're taking 150, but I'm playing 5-10, so that's 15. You're playing 1-3. That's that's 100. That's 50. So all things to be considered, there's actually 35 big blinds more for me to win at 5-10. Now, if I'm one of the better players in the game, divided by 9, let's say that I can win maybe like 5 more of that 35. I can win 1/7 of that. You start to see that like somebody's win rate of like 4 big blinds at 1-3 could be the equivalent to my win rate at 9 big blinds at 5-10 because there's that much more money actually out there because of the rake. Do you follow that? Like in terms of the large sizing. So the other thing too is that in terms of like game quality, if 2-5 is the biggest game in the room, then it could be tougher if you don't have like a 5-10 game. I mean, most of the 5-5 games in LA are pretty much all a joke. But from what I have seen, and I can really only speak for LA, where there is a bevy of 5-10 games, it's not that much of a jump from 1-3 to 2-5. What you'll find is less proportional short stacks, which is a good thing. At the same time, if it is the largest game in the room, there might be better players. But what I'm saying is that a game with a $6 drop at 1-3 and a 300 cap, that is going to be a very hard game to beat for, say, more than 5 big blinds, just because of the amount of money that's taken out. That money has to come from, you have to be able to win 5 big blinds from the rest of the table, and the rake is taking 50 big blinds. So even if everyone is sitting there with 100, right, like after 8 hours, half the money has been raked off the table. and you're supposed to have won like 40 big blinds if you're winning 5 after 8 hours when, 400 has been raked off the table out of 900 or out of 1,000. So people underestimate the rake, I guess is what I've said in sort of a long-winded manner, if you follow what I'm saying. But I don't think the games are that much tougher.
Okay.
So,
yeah, and that's a good point that you made too about like the biggest game in the room, because actually where I play most nights, except for sometimes they'll run 5-5 and occasionally they'll run 5-10. They actually had a 10-20 game this past weekend, but most times the biggest game in the room is in fact the 2-5. So maybe I should switch rooms then if that's the case.
So some people are saying it's $7 per hand in Orange City, Florida. I mean, listen, I don't know. I mean, does your game have a bunch of short stacks? I mean, that's the other problem with playing 1-2 or 1-3 is that it stunts your growth in terms of being a player, because if you want to play the highest EV style in those games, it's almost all pre-flop. Like, you should be playing 10 to 15% of your hands, and you don't really grow as a player all that much because there aren't multiple streets. Like, everything is usually over on the flop. So that's the thing. So if you're, a recreational player, I mean, you might give it a shot. I mean, you're in a lot better situation than somebody else that's actually trying to play for a living. So anyways, thanks for the call.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. All right, let's go to our last caller here. This is Chase from COP, and that will wrap it up. Chase, what's going on?
Hey, Bart. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
So I've got a 3-5 hand here. It's from Thursday night.
So where's this played out of?
Game. This is at Talking Stick.
That's another place, by the way, that I will be scouting out. Like I said, I had said, well, maybe I'll be moving out of LA at some point in the next 2 years. I've never been to Scottsdale, Arizona. I've got a buddy that lives there. I hear that there's decent poker down there too, so could check it out. I'm going to check out, I go up to Sacramento, but I've never been there, but I'm looking forward to visiting. So you've got 3-5 with what, like is it a spread limit, a 500 per bet or per street bet or something like that?
Yeah, it's spread limit, so you can bet $5 to $500 on any bet.
Yeah.
So it plays pretty much like a normal no limit, but the game can play very deep sometimes.
Yeah.
But this hand, we're 1,200 effective.
Okay.
And MP opens to 15.
Okay.
I'm in the low jack with jack of diamonds, jack of spades, and I 3-bet to 45. The cutoff calls.
Yep.
The button calls.
Mm-hmm.
And the original opener from mid position also calls. So we go 4 ways to the flop.
Okay, so 1,200 effective, MP to 15. You're in the low jack with jacks. You 3-bet to 45, cutoff calls, button calls, and the original razor calls. So it's 4 ways, right?
Yes.
Okay.
About 185 going to the flop. It comes queen of diamonds, jack of hearts, 4 of clubs.
So you flop middle set, right? Queen of diamonds, jack of hearts, 4 of clubs. Pretty good flop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So mid position checks, and I see bet 135.
Okay, pretty big, but everyone is. So you say it's 500 bet per street, or just capped at 500 again? I'm confused.
So any bet. So like right now, the most somebody could make it is 500 more to 635 total.
But you could come back over the top for 1135 after that.
Exactly.
It just goes unlimited. Exactly. So it's not. It's a bet size. Okay, got it. Okay, not a street.
There is a cap on the number of raises, but only when it's multi-way, and it's like the fourth raise,
bet,
but
like
basically
limit.
never happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I bet 135.
All right, pretty big.
Folds.
It's a rainbow board, right? Diamond, heart, 4 of clubs.
Yeah.
Okay, so you bet pretty big. You bet 135. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cutoff folds, and the button, who's going to be the main villain, he thinks for a little bit, gives a kind of a speech, says, that's a big bet, and then he makes it a min click to 270.
Oh, that's nice. So you bet 130, cutoff folds, and now the button min raises to 270. But you have the cutoff and the button. These guys had cold called your 3 bets behind you.
Right.
But I mean, you have the nuts now, right? Like, I mean, it's not gonna, no one's gonna have queens, right? I mean, rarely.
Actually, the guy in the cutoff is pretty weak tight, and he definitely has basically all the combos of queens here. I don't think he would ever.
But he folds, right? He folds to your bet.
Yeah, you're right. But the guy my point is the guy in the button also is kind of a weak tight older guy where I don't think he would be 4-betting queens ever.
Yeah, but would he be?
Would he basically treating this as the nuts?
But yeah, you're treating your hand as the nuts. I'm saying, like, would he min raise? Like, I mean, maybe. So, okay, so he raises to 270.
Yeah, and the mid position guy folds, and it's back to me.
So, all right, so now it's back to you. Let's say, look at your stack depth here. I mean, if you call, the pot will be like 725 and you'll have like 1,000 left. I don't know. Min raise is like, I think that I would very likely just make a small raise back so that you can continue with the betting lane. You know, I've talked about this before, that it's sort of a disaster when you call if a guy's raising with a hand like ace queen and then it goes check check on turn and now you're first to act on the river. I just wouldn't give this guy the betting lead. Like 135 to 270, why can't you just make it like 400? He's never going to fold for like 130 or 150 more, and then you just happily get the money in. It's just a disaster if he has ace queen or king queen and it goes check check on turn, unless you're planning on calling and then donk leading turn, but that's sort of awkward. I have seen people do that, but
yeah, I thought it was kind of weird at the time because of his speech and the sizing. I was trying to figure out, you know, what he could have, and I just thought he could definitely have some 10-9 suited and some king 10s. I mean, he could even have king 10 offsuit, maybe cold calling from the button. I know it sounds crazy, but
and you think that I don't know, Chase, but you think that a guy, you have bet 135 on queen jack 4 as the preflop 3-better, right? So obviously you're strong. Yeah. You think that someone's gonna raise the flop with 9-10 or king 10 when you're c-betting?
I don't know. It's kind of weird, yeah, but I could see it maybe as a min click and then trying to take a free card on the turn or something. But
even, I mean, I this sort of looks like more of a showdownish type of hand to me. Or he's got queen jack or pocket fours. I mean, whatever.
Right. So,
I'd almost always
think if he has ace queen or king queen that he's gonna call if we 3-bet the flop?
I think you can just make it like 400. Yeah. I mean, 135 to 270 to like 400 and continue with the betting lead. Like I said, I hate to see this. I mean, it's a very large live exploit, right? Because you're probably never bluffing for this sizing, but it doesn't really matter. I just don't want it to go check check on turn and then you not get all the money in.
Yeah. In my head, I was thinking it was kind of, you know, I was afraid I would blow him off a queen, and I thought I might get him to bet again on the turn if he had some draws, maybe. I know that kind of goes against what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, that doesn't. That in itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense though, because if you call and now the turn's a deuce, you're saying he's going to continue to fire with 9-10 or king 10?
Yeah, I just kind of had to read that he thought I was playing kind of scared money. So I thought, like, you know, I want to give this guy some rope to try to blow me off something here, is what I was thinking.
So you call?
I call. And so there's about 725 in there, and it comes the 8 of diamonds.
Okay.
And I checked to him because my plan was to give him some rope. And he bet 275 pretty quickly.
So he's bet 1/3 the size. So he bet the same bet that he raised the flop with. Is that right? Basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh, yeah, almost exactly the same.
Chase, this is, I don't know. This screams to me like ace queen or king queen all over. I mean, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I mean, I guess occasionally you might run into really strange 9-10, but I think that those hands bet more on the turn. King 10 is either going to take a card or just bomb it to make it look like he's huge. This just looks so much to me like a queen that's just going to go check, check. I mean, you get here now for 275, so he has, what, 700 left, and the pot's going to be, what, 1,300-ish, something like that. Just put it in or make a min raise, go to 550.
Yeah.
You got to put money in now.
There's 610 left, yeah.
You got to put money in now because if you call, it could easily go check, check. You know, and it's just a disaster.
Right.
I mean, I've seen these betting patterns before, you know?
Yeah. Well, at this point in the moment, I was still thinking I'd give him some rope. Maybe he could have like king 10 and, you know, I don't know. So I just called at the time. And so there's a 1275 out there, and the river comes the ace of spades. And at this point, I kind of think that he's either got the straight or he's just running some kind of bluff. So I checked, and he bet 400.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Really
so
weird. Sure.
I'm just putting up the river here and putting up the final board. So,
sure.
So it's queen of diamonds, jack of hearts, 4 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, ace of spades. The pot is 1275. You've got about a half pot size bet left. You check, and now he bets 400.
Yeah, he says it too, like kind of, you know, in a speechy kind of way. He's like 400. And where he had, on the turn, he had just not said anything and just put out the...
So he has, what, 610 left? So he's got 210 left total after the bet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't find myself in this spot but I would check raise all in for, I mean, almost 100%, because I still think it's consistent. He's got a lot of value hands that you beat. I mean, yeah, you're scared of 9-10 and King-10. I don't think he has those hands all that much. I mean, obviously, I could be wrong if you're calling this in. I don't know what the results are based upon that turn sizing, but how about Ace-Queen, which is what I said. This was going to go check, but now he rivers Ace-Queen, so now he thinks he's got the nuts. Queen-Jack, fours, although I would think that those hands would probably bet a little bit larger on the turn, but
Right.
there's a lot of ace-queens that this guy could have. You don't block any of them, and he's not going to fold for 210 more. So, I mean, in essence, the only difference between him moving all in here and him betting 400, if you decide to check raise all in, is just that you have to be good here more than 50% of the time to check raise all in, whereas if he moves all in for half the size of the pot, you only have to be good, 25% of the time, because you're going to be getting 3-1 on a 1/2 pot size bet. So
Right.
He bets 400. What did you do?
Well, at the moment, I was thinking he was kind of polarized to a straight or a bluff. I wasn't sure what he would be bluffing with. He must have turned a pair into a bluff, I guess. And so I called, and he had king, queen of spades.
King, queen of spades. So I mean, I don't know why he decided to bet at the end. I guess it was just a spaz.
Yeah.
But it was pretty consistent with what I thought he had. I thought he was going to run in here with
Right.
ace queen. The other thing, though, too, is that you get into these situations where the pot gets so large, and I've talked about this before, right? So he bets 400 and 1275. If you call, the pot's going to be 2075. You're check raising for 200 more, right? So it's going to be 2275, 200 for him to call. He might call with king queen. That's why you can.
Yeah, he
that's
probably
why.
would, actually,
That's why you can do it like a lot thinner in these spots when people don't have that much left. He's going to be getting 10-1,
right.
on the back end. So.
So if we had an overpair on the flop, like aces or kings, you still take the same line pretty much.
If you had aces or kings, obviously I'm not going to 3-bet the flop. I would call. The turn is a little bit. The turn is interesting because of the fact that it's such a small sizing, and it still seems like he's got a lot of ace-queens. Like, if I had kings here and he bet the turn, he seems like he's got, like, a lot of ace-queens. If the river was, like, a brick, like a deuce, based upon that sizing, so let's say you've got kings and you bet, he goes 270, you call, turns an 8, check, 275, call. You guys have what, 600 left? I would probably come up and do what like I call like an upfront bet, which is I would probably just come out and bet the river myself. I'd like to have enough stack depth to be able to bet fold, but it just seems so consistent with like ace queen. I would probably just come out and bet like 275 to 300. Your stack size is a little bit weird though, so I can sort of see.
Why wouldn't you 3-bet the flop if you think he's gonna call with like king, queen, ace, queen for a small 3-bet? Then why wouldn't you 3-bet aces or kings?
Well, because on the flop you don't know. It's the turn that sort of kind of reveals the hand. On the flop, he can have queen jack. He can have pocket fours. I don't think he has 9,
so
10 or king.
A bit of an overplay. Yeah.
Yeah. He can have have those hands, but when he follows up with that turn sizing, that's the same as the flop raise sizing. I don't know. I've just seen it for 15 years. It's almost always the same thing at this level. It's not strength.
Sure.
It's a showdown. He's trying to get into a reverse sort of showdown in position. I don't know why you bet the river. It's just weird.
So what if you would c-bet the flop with like 10-9 of clubs, and then he makes this min click? What do you do there?
I mean, I would still call. I don't think that he's gonna. I mean, I don't think. I don't like to try to bet 3-bet people when they raise, and this because you look so strong when you c-bet on the flop. You know what I'm saying? That's why I thought that I would just call and take my equity and then just check raise on turn. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So
yeah.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Okay. Well,
all right,
thanks for your help, Bart.
All right, you got it. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for us. Hope you guys have a happy New Year. Like I said, I'm gonna be chilling out here. It's 9 p.m. on the East Coast. We will be back next week for another episode of Crush Live Call-ins. If you're interested in getting on the show, just shoot me an email, bart@crushlivepoker.com. Or, of course, if you are a CLP subscriber, I always give you priority. You can shoot me a PM on Slack or email me and tell me you're a subscriber. So we'll see you guys next time. Have a happy New Year. Bye-bye.